unpredictable podcast on the World Wide Web.
About to shut it down.
Like Aaron Hill. You are locked in. Pour a glass of wine, ladies. Let the Henny flow, fellas. And get ready to turn the fucking meter up to lit. It's Karen Hill live on Say It Loud Radio on your favorite internet platform, streaming live.
It is a. Why is it doing that again? It is another episode of Say It Loud podcast with your girl Karen L. And I am here with some friends who are going to have a good time with us, and we're going to hang out and we're going to talk about life and all of the good music and stuff that they're working on. But I want the guys to introduce themselves, and then we'll talk about you on a whole, right? Before we talk about the group, we're going to talk about you guys as individuals. So I will get to the whole Black Ivory, but I wanted to meet each of you as individuals first. So Stuart, let's start with you.
Okay, well, I am Stuart Bascom. And I am one of the founding members of Black Ivory, original members. We are all three original members, one of the few, the only classic soul group with all the original members still performing from the original recordings. And I live in New Jersey, and I'm a songwriter, a singer, a producer, and I like to have fun, but I'm a little too serious sometimes.
But you know that, so
I do know that.
I do the battle.
So, I have a low tolerance. Low tolerance for nonsense. So.
and Leroy and I are very much nonsensical.
We're his partners, so it's a balance, definitely.
Hi, you see why I did this first?
Yeah.
Well, you're going to get a lot of that anyway, even when you're talking about the group.
Yeah, because you asked for it.
I did.
That's he. I'm Leroy. Hi, Karen. Hi, everybody. Leroy Burgess is who I am, and I've had the blessing of working with these two amazing brothers for 55 years now. And yeah, we get into some hijinks for sure. That's an absolute. But God keeps us together and holds us together, and we love each other. So here we go for another year.
Wow,
for true.
And my name is Russell Patterson, and I am the baby of the group. Okay, don't say nothing. Yes, I am. Don't make no faces. And these guys started the group together, but then they at one point invited me to join them when three of their previous members, decided they didn't want to be a part of it.
He's the baby.
And ever since then, we've had a lot of fun.
He's the baby by about 3.5 months.
Okay, that was too much information. I'm young.
We're all in the same age right now.
Yeah,
for the moment.
For 3 months out of the year, 3 or 4 months out of the year, we're the same age.
Oh, nice.
Leroy's leaving us in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, no,
next week.
Next week,
actually.
Next Tuesday, I'm not the baby. I'm so very not the baby. But yeah, in on the 20th, I will be celebrating my next birthday. And
how are you celebrating? What are you gonna do?
I don't know.
You don't know? I feel like birthdays are supposed to be celebrated. I don't wait for anything special to celebrate anything. Ask my kids. I celebrate everything. Like, life is so short. And there's so many things that are just wrong. Like, we celebrate those things and we worship those things. That anything that I can celebrate, I celebrate. So I'm going to tell you right now, by the end of this 45 minutes, you better think of something.
Oh, he's got a celebration planned. He just ain't telling you.
Right.
Things are going to happen. But I'm really spontaneous sometimes. Last year, they blew me out of the water. So, I'm still.
Yeah, we all had milestone birthdays this year.
Yeah.
So we all had parties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
Big
normally.
parties?
We all had big parties.
Yes, we all had big parties individually.
Yeah, it was a milestone, so
Yeah.
Individually, but together.
it's big party.
That's so cool because you're all at each other's parties.
Yeah.
But tell
Yes.
tell what you're gonna do, Leroy.
What I'm gonna do about what?
Your birthday. You told me where were you supposed to be going for your birthday?
I don't know what I'm going. I was supposed to be going to Coney Island,
Thank you.
and uh, my bones and body started saying, "Listen, we have issues with that."
Yeah, I
So,
was waiting to
They
hear
don't
what
want
it
to go
sounded like.
with you.
I was waiting to hear how you felt after getting off the cyclone.
the Cyclone is easy peasy compared to some of the other joints.
That's for sure.
Leroy, you go to Coney Island and get my rides?
Yeah. What?
Stop getting on rides about 10 years ago.
Oh wow.
You did?
Rides are my thing. That's one of the things that makes the park so amusing.
Yeah.
I still get on them. Well, last time I was on was about maybe 5 years ago at Great Adventure. So
Great event? Oh no.
Yeah. What's the ride there that I like? Was it Nitro?
Nitro is hot.
Yes, Nitro is like so great.
That's that heat.
It's so great. It's a great roller coaster. The Cyclone is like a little kiddie car.
I'm learning so much about y'all because it's really good to know y'all. You're the thrill seekers. Because
the Cyclone
I don't go on
is rickety.
anything at Great Adventure.
It is rickety. The first drop is really nice.
The last time I got on the Cyclone, I was like, I mean, it wasn't like a straight shot like these new ones. That thing was like rocking.
You got to be careful which car you get in.
I like
if you get in the back car, you're going to be slung all over the place.
Flying up.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm in the front all the time.
I like the front. I would ride the Cyclone like multiple times just to get up to the front.
Yeah. The fun is where it's at. But you gotta have that first drop. You gotta be ready for it. So that's crazy.
Yeah.
No, I think I'll do my ride Playland.
Oh, the Dragon Coaster.
Yes.
Yes.
Man, see, I thought about Playland. Because Playland is actually a pretty
Playland is cool.
Yeah, Playland's nice.
Yeah.
Playland is a pretty cool part, but I decided
those rides are tame
because I had to take into account. It wasn't going to be Great Adventures because there's way too much walking.
Yes.
With Great Adventures.
Yeah.
Way too much walking. And then way too much. The lines are too long and the time is just crazy. So Coney was where I made the choice to go. But I'm going to go a little bit after my birthday. I'm not going to go on my birthday. For my birthday, I'm thinking a movie, nice little restaurant, stuff like that. Just enjoy it that way. Because, praise God, I've had enough birthdays to have done the whole crazy celebration thing.
Right.
and also understated, quieter birthdays. You get used to it. So all of it is cool. The blessing is that you arrive at a new year. You've made it through a previous year, and to keep that in perspective. So that's what I do. I'm gonna do a little something, but it ain't all that.
I feel like that's good. As long as you're happy and you're content, then that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a big birthday celebration person myself. Me having a party this past year was rare. I think I've had 2 parties that I can think of as an adult.
You've had parties, though.
Like 2 as an adult.
Okay.
The last 2 milestones, and none of that was my doing.
But did you throw the right? That's what I was going to say.
None
you
of it was my doing.
Parties.
It's like and I appreciate that it was done for me. I mean, really, especially this past one was really special. I mean, they were both very special, and I really appreciate it. But if it had just been left up to me, I'd be sitting at home watching a movie, playing video games, noodling around in the studio and stuff like that. I don't need to celebrate.
You know something though? I don't think that's not celebrating. Because my last birthday, I didn't go out to eat. I didn't go to a party. I didn't want a party. My friends called me, said, let me take you out to dinner. I was like, I don't feel like going out to dinner. I didn't go to work that day either. I was like, I don't want to do anything. That's how I want to celebrate. I don't want to be beholden to anyone. I don't want to commit to anything and anyone make me feel like I need to be anywhere. I just wanted a day where no one else was telling me where I need to be, what I need to do. Like today's my day and I'm just going to do what I want. And that's how I celebrated.
That's how you're supposed to do it.
Those are good too. I've had a few of those.
It's your day, so you're supposed to do what you're supposed to do. Whether it's a larger event or something just understated and cool, you and the TV and food, right? So,
yeah.
Well, I've done that a lot. I'm going to restaurants to eat. Had nice meals prepared for me at home. That's happened a lot.
There's a whole gamut. If you're lucky enough to live long enough, there's a whole gamut of stuff you're gonna do.
But I try to celebrate every day anyway. So.
Yep, there you go.
Yep.
You said it.
Every day is a blessing. You only got right now.
That's right.
That's true.
So we're gonna go back to how you guys all got together, and someone's gonna tell me how this group came about. How did this start?
Let's do it.
You were first, brother.
No, well,
Because you say you guys been working together for like
55 years.
55. I wasn't gonna say that because I was like, well, then I don't know how old you guys are. Have you been together?
Well, it's not a big secret.
Years? You don't look like you could have been working together for 55 years. So
it's not a big secret. I mean, it's easy to find out how old we are. I mean,
just look anywhere online.
we're all 70 right now.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
I don't know. I was trying to figure it out in my head, but I was like, I don't know.
Yeah. We're all 70 right now. And but anyway, Leroy was actually the earliest remaining member of the group that this Black Ivory grew out of. So I'll let him tell that part of the story.
So back then.
Okay, keep in mind this is our show.
Yeah, okay. Because
he's starting his little out there.
And not only that, but when Leroy and I start telling the story,
it's a long.
Leroy and I were around longest.
Yeah.
Russell is like sitting there, not saying anything, not doing
Twiddling
anything.
my thumbs.
And then he's patient with everything anyway. So here's the in '68. I met Larry Newkirk and singing just in our summer jobs, and he said he had a group called the Mellow Souls, and I said okay. He said, "Would you like to join the group?" I said, "Hey, that's what I've been waiting for." So I joined them. Shortly after that, Stewart joined us, and initially it was a 5-man group: myself, Lawrence Newkirk, Fräulein Ramirez, Vito was his nickname, and Michael Harris, Stewart, and myself. We got to perform and audition for Patrick Adams, who began to help the group develop. Michael was the first to drop out, and years later that was followed by Vito and Larry. And that's when Russell joined the group, and we became a trio as opposed to a quartet. So that's the basic story.
Okay. And then
that's the first.
He's like, what? Okay, go on, Russell. You tell the story.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Oh, I was just walking down the street.
He'll go next. I
was walking down the street one day.
Stewart is the next guy.
I'll add a few tidbits. Now, it was we called the Mellow Souls. It was a quartet. Patrick Adams took us into the studio. We recorded 2 songs. And in trying to get a deal with those 2 songs that we recorded, he was negotiating with a man named Gene Red Jr., who was Kool and the Gang's manager. And he had his own record label called Red Coach Records. And so Patrick started talking to him about trying to sign us. We went into the studio. We cut about 5 more songs. And to help promote the group, we started going out and opening up the show for Kool and the Gang, where it would be Kool and the Gang's show or set but we would come on and do 2 songs before they began their set, and they would actually play behind us. So
Yeah.
Cool and Gang is very integral to our group's origins.
Yeah.
So as Leroy mentioned, Larry Newkirk and Vito Ramirez dropped out of the group. Russell was singing in a group with Larry's younger brother, and Leroy was their very young manager at the time. And
It was passing for management.
You left that part out.
No,
That was supposed to be my part to tell.
And so we went to a rehearsal and we saw Russell performing. So we invited Russell to join the group, and then I'll let Russell tell the rest of the story what happened, because he was in the group for a hot second before the next thing happened.
Shades of Mellow was the name of the group.
Oh yeah. Oh no, it was Black Ivy, but I didn't tell the story how Patrick said that we needed a new name for Mellow Souls, and so he and I got on the phone one day and started reading names from the dictionary, just saying names, putting stuff together, and he said Black Ivory and Eureka.
That's us.
That was going to be my next question.
I'll have that.
Russell, tell your story. Tell your story.
Well, I was living in Harlem. I moved to the neighborhood where they lived, out from the Bronx, because I grew up in the Bronx primarily. And one of my neighbors in the building asked me if I wanted to be in a singing group. And I said, yeah, because he knew I could sing. So he took me to Esplanade Gardens. That's where Stewart lived at the time. And one of the other members.
And Larry.
And Larry. Yeah, and one of the other, that's what I was going to say. And one of the other members of the group, Larry Newkirk, his brother Todd decided he wanted to be, have a group like his big brother. So they invited me to come and audition, and I auditioned for the Shades of the Mellow Souls. And Leroy came to my first, rehearsal, and he was introduced to me as the manager. And I was like, okay. Because he came in, and at the time, Leroy was like 90 pounds, and he had this dog chain around his neck. And I'm like, he don't look like management material here. So then, he said, well, yeah, you did. Well,
Do go
so
on.
Then he told me afterwards that he really liked, how I sang, and that I might fit better in Black Ivory, which they had just changed the name recently. And I'm like, okay, well, if you don't think this group is going to work, then I'll go and, so he said he wanted to introduce me to Stewart. And once, I met Stewart, and Stewart said, yeah, then it was a done deal. And luckily for me, from what they had done previously between the recordings and the Kool and the Gang affiliation and winning block parties and, singing contests, we got a deal, I think, what was it, 2 months after I got in the group?
Yep.
2 or 3 months after I got in the group.
2 or 3 months after you got in the group, we got signed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we got signed.
To Perception Today Records. And that led to our first recording session, and we were blessed to actually go to record where, the groups that we idolized and the groups that we tried to emulate, the Delphonics and the Philly sound, was all down there. So we went to Sigma Sound Studios to record our first 2 records, giving us and locking us kind of into that sound that we loved.
That's cool.
And from there, that became an album. Came out in 1971.
How old were you guys then?
First,
I was 16.
17. Well, you were 17 by the time the first record came out.
By the time
the record came out.
But when we
recorded
it,
came out April of 71. So we were all 17 when our first single came out.
Right.
So how are all your parents with this? I want the good story. I want the good story. I want the bad story.
My dad was fine. He said, okay, I'll sign.
At 16, they were okay?
Well, my mother was okay. Of course, she was concerned about, the contract and stuff like that. So, of course, she had to go, read the contract. And I don't know if when we first started singing, whether she really, my mother, because my mother and father weren't together. So I was living with my mother, and I don't think she really took what we were doing that seriously at first, and then I came home with a contract, and we went in the recording studio, first came home with the acetate, of what we had done in the studio. And so came home with the contract and became real.
It took a lot longer for my parents. First of all, I came home with the contract and they were like, and so I was like, well, there's a record contract, and I think I might be. It was like, well, sign it. So, and then when we went in the studio to record "Don't Turn Around," that was a whole nightmare. That I'm leaving for my autobiography. But when we finally get "Don't Turn Around" released and out and so forth, and as Stuart said, he brought home the acetate, and yes, they were like, "Oh, that's nice."
But I must say, I overlooked. My mother was really supportive. Because she used to make jumpsuits for me and outfits for when we were doing performances before we even were signed. So, because we used to do, before we were signed, as Russell mentioned, we used to do block parties in Harlem, in the neighborhood. And we were all from the Harlem area at the time. So, people would see us at the block party, and then they'd see us walking up and down 7th Avenue.
Right.
Or in school, because Russell and I went to Brandeis High School.
And I was in Dodge Vocational High School. But after "Don't Turn Around" came out, we found quite a few people changing their tunes. They those who had been unsupportive were now very supportive. And we found a lot of people from our neighborhood were taking a lot of pride from the fact that, here were 3 brothers from Harlem, young brothers, and they've got a successful record out. So people began to gravitate towards our sound, and that led to the first album that we did, named after the first single, "Don't Turn Around," and that's where things started really getting interesting. Let's say things started getting really, really amazing for us. So after a minute, everybody was like extremely supportive, extremely with us, very proud of us, and that energy continued to carry us for a long time.
But do you think that was because was it after everybody kind of gave more energy to you? Was it after those songs came out, or was it the whole entire time?
Well, no, I think it was the whole entire time, because even before we were signed and we had the record, like I said, we were doing block parties. We lived in the neighborhood.
Right.
We went to school with other people in the neighborhood, and we lived in the neighborhood even before we started singing. So we were known. And even when I go back to Harlem's always felt like home to me, even though I'm away from it now.
And also at that time, there was a lot of musicians who also became famous, like Larry Blackman and a couple of other folks, that it was like a community of musicians and artists in Harlem. And people, names got around and people started knowing each other.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, once "Don't Turn Around" came out when we were in 11th grade. It came out in April of that year. And during the course of the summer, that's when it became a hit. So when we went back to school in September to go into the 12th grade, the first day at school, our principal surprised us, Stuart and I, by they used to make those announcements over the loudspeaker in the in the morning and stuff.
Morning PA at the school.
Yeah, so the principal started out, welcoming us back to school, and then she pointed me and Stuart out as members of the group and congratulating us on releasing a record, and then played "Don't Turn Around" over the loudspeaker for everybody. So that 12th year, we became celebrities, and we got a little more friends than we had prior
the year before.
Yes.
That's really cool, though. That's good. That's cool that the principal played your record over
the whole song too. Yeah.
And what
really
also was cool was particularly like Leroy used to live on 143rd and 7th, and there was a record store right there on 143rd. And back in those days, record stores always used to have the speakers outside the store and would always be playing the records. And so it was great walking up and down 7th Avenue, you know, for whatever purpose, you know, because and you would hear our record playing from the record stores and on the radios from cars going by, and it was great. It was,
I love that.
teenagers,
I love
as
that.
a teenager, you know,
As a teenager.
as a teenager.
Yeah.
It's
As
Yeah.
a teenager.
the perfect dream. It's a dream of teens who want to get into the industry and stuff like that. To especially their first record to be successful and well received is just where a lot of people's artistic dreams begin.
Right.
Yeah, we were blessed in exactly what Leroy just said. You know, there's a lot of recording artists who struggle through their early years where they put out a record and it doesn't really do much. They put out another record and it takes a while for them to really gain traction. You know, even the Supremes and the Temptations,
Mhm.
they didn't have hits
Yeah,
immediately.
that's true.
But our first record, you know,
That's
first
it.
record blew up, and the second we had 3 singles from the first album.
That was crazy.
You know, 2 from
That
the next
charted.
album.
Yeah.
So we had a really good start.
I love that. That's an amazing story when you think about it, because just also so young. I think so.
Yeah.
Also so young to be able to make decisions that get you there. You know, because so
Right.
many people I talk to come on the show and then they tell me about the contract and making decisions, and they didn't have a support system or they didn't know what they were doing, and they figure it out. But you know, they you know, you learn as you're doing it. And
Right.
not
Yeah, I mean,
everybody.
well, the same thing with us.
Sometimes the lessons
We
are a
were-
lot harder than they
But
look.
we didn't have really hard. I mean, yeah, you know, we have the same type of stories. I don't think we really have any horror stories.
Yeah, we didn't know what we was doing.
We didn't know what we were doing, but we have the same stories where we didn't get paid as much as we thought we should have. You know,
Right.
we didn't get the
And
royalties
we didn't
thought
get
we
a
should
national
have.
hit record either.
You know, it's rumored that one of
You.
huh?
No, I'm talking to Russell.
Oh.
And
Uh,
we didn't get a nice
and our
We
records
didn't
were,
get a national hit record.
no, we were pretty much, we were regional, you know.
Yeah, we had a lot. We had
little
regional.
Midwest, some South. You know, we didn't really have. We were the small record label, so the record would be hot in New York, Philadelphia, Connecticut for 1 month or a couple of weeks, and then it would move down south a little bit in Midwest. We didn't have a national hit at any one time, so we didn't have a real big push. Even today, it's hard to get bookings for us in certain parts of the country because they don't really know the group that well.
Right.
So
They might know our music, but they don't know they can't place the face to the music.
right, and they didn't have the benefit of matching the music to our stage performance, which
Right.
which was pretty good.
Yeah, we had a great band.
And we were also lucky in that at the time Right On magazine was out, and they featured us like for a few months
quite a bit.
and gave us, that national notoriety, so to speak, but we never
That's
got
true.
the
That's
national
true.
hit.
Thanks to Cynthia Horner. Yeah, we had
Well,
they featured us quite a bit. They did a number of spreads on us.
Yeah.
I think on a national level, I think even now there's, like you said, there's certain parts of the country where they just listen to certain different types of music,
Different
or
types
they
of
can't
music, yeah. That's
make the
true.
connections, or I think it has a lot to do sometimes with the radio stations that they have there and the media markets
Yes.
that just don't pump out or play enough of certain types of music, so people don't get a chance to hear it. I think maybe now it's a little bit different because of the social media, and you can kind of look for what you want. But if you're just waiting for certain markets to just give it to you, it really just depends where you are.
Right.
Right.
Well, we were mostly East Coast. We were really big in Washington D.C. in the DMV area, and that was like a second home for us.
Washington and Baltimore.
Yeah.
We was always
So what's it like now like booking shows and doing shows and stuff like that together?
It's great. It's a blessing. I mean, after 55 years, we all are in, good health. We still are able to perform. We still are received well by our audiences. One of the things that happened to our benefit was in '95, radio stations in the New York market started playing classic soul music again.
Mhm.
And we had separated for about 15 years. But in 1995, around that time, when um, WBLS and Kiss started playing classic
Yes.
soul and sweet soul music again, it created a market for us to perform. And one of the things that instigated our getting back together was our one of our managers, our manager Lenny Adams, passed away, and so I think Russell and I and one of our band members were at the funeral, and they said, "Man, you guys should get back together." So we had meetings and we talked about it, and in '95 we got back together and started performing again, and we've been together and performing since. Actually, we've been performing together longer now than when we first started.
That is true.
So who have you worked with that was like, I'm never gonna work with them again?
That I didn't think
Are you
that question
talking
was
about
going that
artists,
way.
or I don't think I personally I can't say that's
I
true for
know that.
anybody.
Yeah.
That's not. I wouldn't close the door on working with anybody. Except for maybe some of the right wing extremists that are out there.
In that part.
Not interested in that.
What about who would you love to work with now? Who would you love to perform with now?
Out
You
of
gotta unmute.
the new performers, or
Yeah, like who? But anyone. Like who would you love to perform
You're
with now?
muted, Leroy.
well, we went at one point. I could say we had the opportunity to perform, to go on tour with Marvin Gaye, possibly,
Oh, that's cool.
and he was looking for a group to do his background for him, but we weren't chosen. So I would have loved to go out with Marvin Gaye personally.
Yeah, that would have been really cool.
My dream
Yeah,
has always been to meet, and I don't know, he's not producing anymore, but I would just like to meet and shake the hand of Quincy Jones.
Oh yeah, of course. He's a legend.
He's so amazing, and there's so much education that I've gotten in terms of production, arrangement, education from listening to his stuff. I would just like to really just meet him and appreciate that honor.
Yeah.
So that's my dream guy.
I don't know. For me, one of the things I was getting ready to say before you asked the question was getting back to us starting to perform when we were in our teens,
Yeah.
16, 17. We started out, doing shows with Kool and the Gangs. On most of those shows were Teddy Powell Productions. He was one of the premier Black promoters during that time, during 1970, 71. So we would be doing shows at places like the RKO Albi, the RKO Valencia, the Proctor and Newark Symphony Hall. So we were doing shows at that time with the Persuaders, New Birth, the Night Lighters, all of the groups at that time. So, somebody asked me a question a few years back on Facebook. They said, well, what's the most memorable thing, about your career and and performing? And I said, it's the realization that we performed on stage with all of the people that are considered classic legends now, with the OJs, the Spinners, Temptations, Al Green, Gladys Knight and the Pips,
James
Ohio
Brown.
Players, Down Melvin and the Blue Notes, Delphonics, The Moments.
All of them,
all of them.
They were
Barry White.
They were the people that we dreamed of being, or being in their class. All right.
Right.
And then our blessing was that over our career, we got to meet most of them. The Jacksons we met, we got to interact with Earth, Wind, and Fire a number of times. There's
Ozzy Brothers,
Ozzy Brothers. The list just goes on.
James Brown. We did several shows with James Brown.
Well, Russell was
Yep.
just. Yeah, so that has been our blessing that we have managed to interact in some way or fashion with everybody that we idolized.
That is so cool. You do know that, right?
It is absolutely cool. It is.
Oh, yeah.
Question. I didn't write questions for you guys because I just wanted to talk to you. Do you guys have children?
I do.
Stuart.
Yes, I do.
So the other day I was at
grandchildren, great grandchildren.
The other day I was at my parents' house and I needed to get my dad's birth certificate, and he's 77 years old. And he sent me into his closet and he said to open a suitcase. It was a suitcase from like 1964. Why he still has it, I don't know.
And
I
have
opened
a suitcase from 1964.
1964. He still has the suitcase, and it's like packed with stuff, like nice stuff, and it smells like England. And I open my parents came from England, so I open this suitcase and I start going through it, and he has his entire life in this suitcase. Like I found his passport from when he was 16 years old. I say that to say that you just worked with all of these people and you have such an amazing story that you don't want your suitcase to be when somebody finds it. You know, like you can tell your story now.
Well,
and your kids be like, I was this one day, and they can't be like, no, you weren't, because you can prove it,
Right.
and them like really participate in being able to see that. That's special.
Well, somebody just asked me on Facebook yesterday. They was like, okay, where's our documentary? Where's our Black Ivory documentary?
Yeah, I feel like that's just to be able to say, like, I worked with the people, like all of the people that I would look up to and emulate. I got to shake their hand and be in the room with them and be in their energy and their presence in that space. That's a big deal.
And
it is.
Back then we were like the little kids of all of those, of those groups. But now we still work with some of them, and even though we didn't have the type of camaraderie that we might have back then because we were younger. And back then, we were all competitors, and so you're not trying to give your competitor too much love and so forth and so on. Matter of fact, back in the 70s, there was some dirty tricks that were played during shows where your mics would be cut off, or your amps would be cut off, or your instruments might get stolen,
or your instrument stolen, and your uniform stolen. Mm-hmm.
But nothing real serious. There was never really any real beats or anything like that.
No gunplay, no.
Yeah, none of that. And that's one of the things today that, when I hear about the beefs between rappers, and violence and the diss tracks and so forth and so on, one of the things I say is you never hear about the Four Top shooting the Temptations.
No.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I don't get it.
It's off in the Vandellas. All right, or the Marvelettes, they're not taking to that level.
It ain't that serious.
Yeah.
But
that's
really
sad. Kind of class about people in different time periods.
I'm sorry.
Say that again, Karen.
I said there was a different class of a certain people in different time periods.
Right. Well, that's what I was going to say. The climate right now enforces that.
They sell
yes.
And it sells records.
Even in terms of the way performers dress on stage. I mean, we would never think about going on stage with jeans and sneakers,
Yes, we would.
A jean jacket, huh?
Oh, yes, we would.
Well, when did that happen?
Not back then, but now. Yeah.
So when I first started seeing that, it was like alien to me, because we were the result of an era in show business where you brought your best to the stage
Right.
Not just in terms of your performance, but in terms of the way you looked and the way you presented yourself.
Correct.
And you presented yourself with a certain amount of dignity and a certain amount of class.
Right.
And there were certain things that we wouldn't dream about singing about. Love songs and music have always been about sex.
Right.
But it's been veiled, and it was always done in metaphor,
Right.
And double entendre, and that was part of the art of creating those stories, that were always about
the subtlety of it.
It was always about what you want to do at the end of the night, but it wasn't
But it
graphic,
was the
it
storytelling.
wasn't explicit, and so we tried to maintain that type of dignity, and we tried to figure out ways of saying those things, so that people knew exactly what you were talking about, but in a way that could be taken another way also.
Right. Yeah, I don't think people today I don't know. I don't have an explanation for this. I can't tell you. I went out. I don't go to the clubs. I went out. They said, if you know this song, sing it. I was like, I don't know this song. I don't know what this song. I don't know. I got nothing. I don't. To me, even now, I don't even think that's talent. I don't think the writers are talented. Like I'm an English teacher, and I like to write, and I love words. I'm like, I don't think that's talent. Like nothing you said sounds like a poem or poetry to me. Like what? Like I don't know. Like I don't know what you like. It just there's nothing in it. So that's my personal opinion, though. And I don't.
Well, there are some things, and one of the only artists that really came to mind when you asked who I would like to perform with, this is one of the artists that I've been most impressed by of the newest generation. Is Bruno Mars. And what reminded me about that is when you talked about song, and none of that is poem, and none of that is, is I was so impressed when I first heard his song Grenade.
Right.
Because the lyrics to that song, it's like such a great, it's such a great song, both musically and lyrical content,
Right.
And it really conveys, whatever meaning or whatever was going on in that relationship, whether it was imaginary or whether it was real to him. He really was able to convey the emotion in the words of that song, and the way he sang it too.
I love Bruno.
And my artist is Neo.
Neo's great.
Yeah, I love Neo. He's a great writer also and performer.
Got a chance to see him at the Grammys this past.
Oh, you did?
January. Yes, he performed at the after party.
Oh, okay.
We were in the wrong room, so we only caught like his last two songs, but we caught the right ones.
Oh, okay.
I like Neo. I'm a Neo fan. Anybody? So what do you guys listen to? What are you listening to now? Ooh.
I'm actually listening to Kenyon Dixon. Are you familiar with him?
No. Tell me more.
Well, a lot of people complain about their R&B is dead. But there's a whole bunch of R&B artists. Kenyon Dixon is like one of the top ones right now.
Okay.
And this guy, Kamari, I like him. What was the artist's name? Victoria Monet, right, Leroy?
Yes.
Victoria.
Yeah, yes. I listen to those people now because the music they're coming out with is kind of reminiscent of our time, but it still has today's flavor. Nice. And the sounds are more today, but the lyrical content is very similar to what we used to do back in the day. It's just the problem is that, it's not a good climate on radio for that type of music. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, we've been talking about that a lot in the music industry and R&B on a whole, because some people say it's dead. I don't think it's dead. I think there's R&B artists.
No, there's a lot of R&B artists.
It's really finding somewhere where they're comfortable and that niche. Again, like we said, when we talk about the marketing and where you put them, they need a place.
Yeah, they need a place to be showcased.
Right.
Because they're just on YouTube.
Right.
It's also breaking through that 40-song playlist that is shared between so many radio stations.
Right.
That the conglomerates are dictating,
Well, first of all, the radio stations for our music needs to be updated. Because, they're still playing music from the 90s. They might play one or two or three current songs, but everything else is still being played from the 90s,
Hmm.
which is crazy because on pop radio, they get new artists on there all the time.
Right.
They just
That
don't
is-
want another black superstar. That's what the problem is for
Well,
me.
I don't know if that's it. Some of it may have to do. I mean, it depends on the station you're listening to, because there are stations that do cater to hip hop and are playing that type of stuff. It's
Mhm.
not BLS though. You know,
No,
every time
definitely
I turn
not.
on BLS, they're playing what you said. They're
Yeah,
playing stuff
urban
from the
radio is not
'90s.
playing quote
You know,
unquote urban radio.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
Urban,
it's,
so
urban radio can mean a lot of
but
things too.
but it was so
Right,
different
yeah.
when we started. You know, for a new artist, you could go into the radio station and you could talk to a disc jockey and
Right.
hand
You're
him
not a
your
program
record,
director.
and he can take a listen to it, and he can make the decision as to whether he wanted to try to break that record on air and then get the response from the public. But
Right.
Right.
now you have on-air personalities,
Mhm.
and I don't even know if the program directors have much say in what's played.
No,
No,
not really.
they're all owned by conglomerates like iHeart and Siri, whatever.
And
Live
No, they
Nation.
literally, I mean, I used to work
Sinclair,
in
Live
a radio
Nation, yeah.
station. They literally like pull the top 40 every couple of days and look at the songs that are on there, and like that's what's in the rotation. And then they
yeah,
can kind of like put
and
other things
I'm in the
in.
car, and if I'm listening to broadcast radio in the car, I can switch from one channel to the next and hear the same song
Hmm.
at the
Hmm.
same time.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
now for me, I I am familiar with some of the new stuff, and I haven't been listening to the new pop stuff recently. I remember back when my son was in grammar school, I used to drive him to school every morning, so I would always put on the pop radio station, so I was hearing all of the new pop songs, and I haven't been really doing that. I've been since I got Sirius XM in my car, though, I discovered the Beatles channel, and I've been listening to the Beatles almost nonstop for almost a year. Every once in
There's
a
a
while I'll
whole
turn.
channel for the Beatles.
The Beatles has their own channel, channel 18 on Sirius XM. It's the Beatles channel, and they play nothing but Beatles and Beatles related songs. Other artists that did Beatles songs, and people that
Covers.
appeared on Apple Records or that on Dark Horse Records, which was George Harrison's label. But and then also what I did is I made a playlist on my phone and CDs of hits from the 60s.
Mm.
Like the top hits from the 60s, basically starting after 65 up to 70. And been listening to that. So I haven't really been listening to a lot of new music.
Yeah.
The past year I've been in the 60s.
Leroy, what you been listening to?
Himself.
Yes. He's been he's constantly
He
working.
says radio is crap. He don't listen to nobody.
I mean, I'm kind of with him to an extent.
Since they know the answers,
He listens to who I tell him to listen to.
yeah, and Russell is in charge of everything. Russell is absolutely in charge of, and if you're not listening, he's going to get you.
That's right.
They're right. I don't listen to radio a lot or at all. I listen to it when I'm in other people's cars. But I tend to, there are artists that I love. Jacob Collier. He is, he's just a brilliant musician. Brilliant. I love Bruno Mars, as y'all mentioned. I'm into Victoria. Is it Victoria Russell?
Victoria Monet.
Yeah.
October London is getting me.
Yes.
Yeah, he's doing some stuff, and I like the Silk Sonic stuff and so forth and so on. What I'm feeling right now is that R&B music is kind of turning back into the higher values that it used to have. All right, in terms of subtlety, in terms of musical composition and production, and it's starting to turn back into and getting away from the misogynistic and the negative guns and gold and bling and paper. It's getting away from that and starting to return to higher values, both musically and lyrically. So I'm happy to report that. And there's more to listen to these days than there was.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. And I'm looking forward to that. So where can people find you? Like, what are you guys doing now? What's going on next?
We have a website, www.blackivory.com. And I try to keep it update with our performances. We have our discography on there. We have a photo gallery on there. We have some videos on there. We have a calendar. We have a guest book so that people can come on and they can leave their comments or also leave their email addresses. We're also on Facebook. We each all have our own individual Facebook personal pages, but then we also have a fan page, Black Ivory. And also I have one, Stuart Bascom / Black Ivory on Facebook. Russell and I are on Instagram, even though I don't really do much on Instagram. Russell Lear is on Instagram too, even though I don't really do much on Instagram. I still haven't figured out how to really navigate Instagram.
Russell knows all of that stuff. Russell knows all of that. He's the Instagram guy. I go to him when I'm looking for how to get around it. I also am on X, which is formerly Twitter.
Yeah.
I'm on there too. It's a cesspool.
Twitter is just interesting now. It's just crazy.
It is. It's.
I haven't gone to TikTok or any of the news sites yet because they knew.
Yeah. I don't do all of them. I had them on my phone, and I'm getting old now, and it's just redundant. And also it's too much. It's just too much for me. I realized one day that like my stomach was in knots. And it was because like all of this information that I didn't want was coming.
Right.
Yeah,
that is definitely a problem.
And so now, I was like, I'm, and if you watch like I watched like a cop like arresting a 16-year-old black boy on TikTok, and if you watch one, then another one, and another one, and I was like, I can't sleep. So I had to learn like this is not good for me. I took it off my phone. I'm not gonna be on TikTok. You're not gonna get like I go on, I look up the recipe, and that's it.
My wife, Vanessa Jordan, she's the president of the National R&B Music Society, which we're all members of. National R&B Music Society is a artist member-based organization. We have public members also, but the purpose of the organization is to promote and preserve classic soul and R&B music and honor the legends that paved the way for the artists of today. And so she gives a Black Tie Gala award every year where we honor legends in the recording industry, in the radio industry, promotion, and we have artist members do tributes to them. She also produced the summer concerts in Atlantic, free summer concerts in Atlantic City that we performed at just a couple of weeks ago. But I brought her up because she is only on Facebook. She uses it mostly to promote the organization. And she says, why do I need to go to any other social media? Because it's going to be all the same people anyway. It's all the same people. So why go over to, they want me to come over to Instagram, but I go over to Instagram. It's just the same people that are over here on Facebook, except she has a much larger following on Facebook. So she only does Facebook, and I do mostly Facebook, even though I go and peruse X and Instagram. I try to post stuff on Instagram every once in a while, but then I don't know how to find it. I don't know how to, I can't make Instagram do what I want it to do.
I mean, at the rate these apps come out, there'll be 15 different ones, and you'll just be doing it all day. It's too much. Pick one or two that you like, and that's just going to be that.
But I
also want to say that, our first, we didn't touch on it, but our first major show when we did come out was at the Apollo Theater.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's
that
big.
was
That's really big
that
too.
was
You know how many people want to get inside the Apollo?
We
right. And
performed
we
there lots
also
of
was
times.
performing with Gladys Knight and the Pips and the Main Ingredient in our first performance.
That's
Yeah.
big
So
too.
yeah,
Well,
it
the
was
first time
wonderful.
we performed at the Apollo, we were actually filling in for the Five Stair Steps, who were there, and they couldn't perform for 2 nights out of the week, and so we filled in for them. And Stevie Wonder was on the bill that same
Yeah.
week, and he was about to release his album Talking Book, and he invited Leroy and I up into his dressing room, and he actually played Talking Book for us when he had just the white label version of it, and it was really special.
Mm-hmm.
But,
That is all I keep thinking is you were at the Apollo in there with Stevie Wonder.
yeah,
and
we've
you
been in the
grew up-
studio with Stevie also.
like, but yes, but you like grew up right in that neighborhood.
Yeah,
That's
true.
what makes that's the part that makes the story, right?
Well,
Because it's the same people right in that community that are now on the stage in that community.
right,
To
yeah.
me, those are the things that I clap really hard for.
Yeah, we would perform at the Apollo, and some days I would just walk home.
Yeah.
Because there was
we could walk there from our house. Yeah, we actually used to stand behind backstage before we got the record deal. We would stand backstage to see if some of them would come out, because sometimes some of them would come out and then go across the street and play basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a school across the street that had a schoolyard with basketball courts.
Yeah,
and I'm happy to to remark on the fact that the Apollo Theater is getting Kennedy honors this year.
really.
So this is the first time
Oh,
that
I
they're
didn't know
honoring an entity and not just a person.
Not a person. Wow.
So it's the first time it's happened, and they're honoring the Apollo Theater, the Kennedy Awards this year.
That's great.
Very
Yeah. There's a lot of history there and a lot of culture, and it's a special place.
It is. It is. We've performed there at least 8 times
8
over the years.
If you count, you mean 8 engagements, but we used to perform
8.
every day.
Yeah, we
3
used to perform
times
every
on
day.
Sunday.
No, we
twice
performed
on
like
Wednesday.
3 shows a day for 7
Right.
days.
3 shows a day.
Yeah, that was back when the Apollo had you had to do a week there, or 7 days, and on Sundays and Saturdays, that's when it was 3 shows a night.
Right.
Regularly it was 2 shows a night, but it was 3 shows a night, full live. There wasn't no DJ, no all of that. All right, it was you came with a band, or you had the Apollo band learn your stuff and play it for you, and you made it through all of those shows every week. So it was very cool.
That's a lot of shows.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
The last time we
I don't
performed
think
there
they make
was
them work that many shows now. You do
No,
2
it's only
shows a
one
night.
show now.
What was
Yes.
the last time too?
Well, the last time we were there was, I think it was, when was it? 2018.
Mr. Soul, right?
We were there there used to be a television show on PBS called Soul with an exclamation point. It was hosted by Ellis Hazlett. Now it was basically like the Black Tonight Show. It was really kind of before Soul Train, and a lot of artists performed there. I think Al Green was like the first performer for the first episode, and Earth, Wind & Fire has been on it. Mandrill, Kool and the Gang, Delphonics, and then they also had dancers from Alvin Ailey. They had poets,
Nikki Giovanni.
But that was the very first time that we performed for television. When our first record, Don't Turn Around, came out, we performed on Soul. And if you go on YouTube now and you look up Black Ivory, Don't Turn Around,
I have my computer open.
One of the first videos will come up will be us performing on Soul with big afros and these black and white outfits. So Ellis Hazlett's niece decided to make a documentary about her uncle and about the show. And
Melissa Hazlett.
Yes, Melissa Hazlett. And she contacted us to be commentators for the film. It's a marvelous documentary. It is currently being streamed on Max, and it's, you know, it came out before Summer of Soul, you know, but it's called Mr. Soul, the movie, and it's a historically and culturally significant documentary, and I recommend it to everyone. But she did a presentation presenting it on stage at the Apollo Theater with a what do they call it when people sit there?
It was a Q&A after the movie. And she invited us to be there.
Right, and we performed a song there after the Q&A.
The film is a Peabody Award-winning film as well.
Yes,
Really?
yes, and I have my Peabody Award inside. Yes, so I'm
looking at you guys on YouTube now and how old you were in 1972.
Yeah. That was our 17-year-old selves.
Yes.
It says Black Ivory, Don't Turn Around, 1972.
Yep.
Wow.
And you're standing on stage and dancing.
Yes.
Yep.
So that was from Soul.
And going to our knees, which we can't do anymore.
Yes. Yeah.
We can go down, but we
and then matching outfits.
Yeah. But we still match.
Outfits. And your afros. Oh my gosh, your hair is so healthy.
The blessings of youth. And this is funny. I went to the barber yesterday, and it's like just one of the craziest things where people still walk up to me and say, "Hey man, what happened to your afro?" I'm like, "Come on, man, it's like all 2024. It's
like it's just supposed to be there."
Well,
yeah, we're supposed to keep it forever.
You're supposed to stay the same.
Some artists, you know, when they create a persona, they maintain it. You know, for like Bootsy Collins, you see him, he's still gonna have the great big star glasses on.
Yeah.
You know, George Clinton, even though he stopped wearing the multicolor locks and everything for a while, and nobody recognized him when you had a jacket and a hat.
Right.
You know, but he went back to his persona. You know, so. Some people, when they establish a on-stage persona, they try to maintain it regardless of how old they are, but that's not us.
I mean, I think some of it's practical and some of it's impractical. You know?
Yeah.
I think we had to kind of realize who our demographic is as well.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Because our fans are aging with us. They're moving with us. And so we should be doing that. We're not, you know, you get what I'm saying? Like the people who are going to see you know who you are.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Does anybody else hear that little sound scratching?
I did hear that.
I was like, there's a cat in here.
Well, I am going to let you guys go because I know I've taken up more than the time that I should have. Can you do you have guys have any shows coming up?
Not right now, no.
Not right now, but everything is on the website when it does come up.
Yes.
All right, so if you're listening, you can definitely
they can go to the calendar and they can see what's coming. Hopefully we'll have some stuff real soon.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. I appreciate all of you and your story. I'm so excited and celebrate all of it because you deserve it. All of it.
Well,
all of
thank
it.
you
Celebrate
so much for
all
having
of it.
us.
Write the books, make the documentaries, do all of it because these are the things that we need to celebrate and these are the things that we need to memorialize.
Thank you. And this was a pleasure. It was fun.
You guys should do it more often. You can go live on Facebook with your fans. Like this.
Yeah, we need to do that kind of stuff.
And I've thought about
I'll teach you how.
Okay.
I'll send you an email.
I mean, I know how to do Facebook Live. I know how to do that.
I'll take it.
One of the things I've been thinking about is having us shoot videos of just each of us talking about any particular subject and then just posting it either on our website or on Facebook or on YouTube or whatever.
Yeah. But you guys can do this too, like on Google Meet or Zoom and record it and then put it on your Facebook.
Okay.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. There's so much technology now. Just find something you like and make it work for you.
Throw it out there.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll talk
Well,
to you
thank
guys
you.
soon.
Take care.
All
Thank
right,
you so
take
much,
care.
Karen. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.